Alrighty, so we are sitting down to film another one-shot review. The movie that I watched today was Crimes of the Future, a David Cronenberg film about the future of human evolution, or as so portrayed by this movie. I'm just going to say straight off from the beginning, this is definitely one of the weird ones, and I think that it's more of a cool movie in concept than something that I can really recommend to everybody, let alone like myself. But what I will say is that there are some interesting themes explored in this movie, and it did, I think it was like an interesting setting, and the way that things were explored was a little bit interesting, but ultimately there wasn't too much meat on the bone, so far as to say for this entire movie. So, what is it about? There is a performance artist named Saul Tenser who is able to grow new organs completely foreign to the human body. So he's not growing a duplicate of an existing organ. He is growing a brand new organ that has never existed at all in anybody in his own body. And then as performance art, him and his partner use this very futuristic machine to cut into him and do surgery and remove these new organs. And then it's sort of like this whole symbolic thing, right? And part of this is to show that not only, I guess it's prompting us to understand that at least in this very far future of our own universe, our own world, people's bodies, human bodies, are starting to mutate to react to its environment. And at least in this form, you have a human who's rejecting that mutation and cutting it out of himself every time. Now, part of this is they make it seem like he is one of the only people that's experiencing this at first, but later on we find out that there's actually a lot more people who are experiencing this, and there are even people who are getting surgery in order to mutate their own bodies to respond to the environment as well. And so if Saul is this guy who's able to grow it from within himself, there's also this faction of people that we find out later on about in the movie that have all gotten surgery to add a certain, system of organs within their own body that allows them to digest plastic. And this is kind of an interesting thing for them to be able to digest anyway, is because plastic is a material that's completely man-made, synthetic, and our whole world is completely filled with plastic. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a huge issue with the amount of microplastics that are in the air, and we currently don't know what effect that will have on us as a species or as like the entire world. But literally all the air you breathe, because of the plastics that we've created and propagated over the course of living our lives since plastic was invented, now all contains at least some level of microplastics within it. That's an aside just to say that it is very interesting that in this movie, people who are adapting themselves to the environment are doing so to be able to ingest and digest plastic. That's just interesting. So first off, one of the themes that this movie kind of explores is that right there, the evolution of the human body and how others react to it. So you've got one side of the fence that's essentially saying that, the human body is only human in its current form, and as certain individuals start to diverge from that path, they could at one point no longer be considered human. And for some, that is a really big problem. For others, I guess they see it as like the enlightening, how, instead of fighting the environment around them and fighting their body's willingness to change to meet that environment, they're instead going to lean into that direction and move forward towards that direction for a better future. And so that's kind of the ideology of the other group that is willing to do this surgery to themselves, or maybe they're born that way, but then they're able to eat the plastic, whereas other humans who eat this plastic literally die. But these guys are able to digest it no problem. Another thing that's explored in the movie is there is this thing that essentially everybody in this futuristic world, they cannot feel pain. They have all evolved, or at least, nature has selected to the point where everybody's pain tolerance is at an insane level. And now people are using scalpels and all sorts of other things to inflict pain on themselves to give themselves like sexual pleasure, because it's a feeling that they really can't feel unless they do something crazy like cut themselves with a scalpel. And there's like this whole really awkward part where Kristen Stewart's character is like, surgery is the new sex, huh? And that's just, it is what it is. But that's kind of explored alongside it just kind of shows that, it's like the theme of, as we evolve, the way that we indulge in certain almost like emotional or humanistic urges will change to match that new reality as well. So, like people are still able to have normal sex, but now they're really only getting this level of heightened pleasure from this sort of like pain inducing stuff. And then even later on in the film, you see he gets a zipper installed in his stomach to be able to access his organs in a much more convenient way. And one of the characters literally unzips him and starts like performing oral something on the seam, because I guess the insinuation is that she's like literally putting her tongue inside his intestines and his body, and that sensation is some sort of like next level like pleasure. So I don't know, that was just like an interesting theme as well. And then another thing that they're touching on between, thinking about how one group sort of looks towards the way of evolution more than another. There's this entire police force called the, like New Vice Division, and what their whole purpose is to secretly hunt down and figure out what's going on with either these like performative surgeries. Well, that's the other thing, because people's pain tolerance are so high, and they no longer feel pain, and they also no longer get infections. Like infection is pretty much completely wiped out. As a result, the newest form of like performative surgery is to do, or performative art rather, I just gave it away, is to do surgery. And they even show somebody, so first we kind of understand like this guy is growing new organs and you're going to cut them out. Like that makes sense as a performative art aspect. But then that parlays into later on in the film, you see somebody literally get like gills cut into their face, and they leave them that way. And they talk about it as like this transcendental experience where, they feel like it is a new form of beauty. And then, even another character is like, gosh, I really want to do something to my face. And they get implants all up in here. Just interesting. Another thing that is happening on the same side is like there are subversive groups, or almost like what the government would consider to be terrorist groups, who are on the side of diverging from the typical human path and leaning into that evolution. And you even have people on the side of it, like trying to hold what they're calling inner beauty pageants, basically holding a contest to see who has the most unique makeup inside, now that all these humans are experiencing mutations and growing new organs and new organ systems and stuff like that. Just all around like super weird. But that kind of leads into, one of the main conflicts in the film is that there is a group of, that New Vice Division. Their main goal is to figure out what's going on with all these performative artists, as well as the surgeries out in public and stuff like that, and try to determine, who are the people that are diverging from the human path and suppressing their voice as much as possible to ensure that these people, for one thing, don't find a way to, become the new norm, but also to keep humanity the way it is. And one of the things that happens as a result of that, and I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but one of the things that's going on in this movie is that the leader of one of these separatist groups wants to have his son, who is killed by his wife, who thinks that, these mutations or being born with these mutations is an abomination and it makes you non-human. She actually, in the very beginning of the film, kills her own child because we see the child is able to eat plastic and digest it, and he even spits out this like little white spit that's like acid that dissolves anything it touches. And she literally kills him because she fears that he is something non-human, and she became like obsessed with it. And even though the husband and all of his followers have the exact same affliction, she thinks that it's some, like devilish thing, and she kills the son. And so part of the movie is that he wants our performative artist main characters, Saul and his assistant, his partner, to do an autopsy, a public autopsy on the boy, so that people will be revealed to his unnatural makeup. And the reason why this is so important is that the boy himself had never received the surgery to get the organs that allow him to digest plastic. In fact, just because he was the offspring of somebody who had that surgery and a normal person, somehow he was born with that system from the get-go. This revelation being released to the public would mean an entirely new understanding of what humanity is, or evolution within humanity, and what's going to happen moving forward. And so the government actually steps in, and I'm not going to basically say how, but to suppress this information and make sure that it doesn't come out. And what's interesting is almost fitting, there's a quote at the end where they're talking to each other, the two performance artists, and they're like, the dad, the son, and the mom were all there at the table during the performance. And in a way, because of this government suppression, I pretty much spoiled it, but I'm not spoiling it. And the dad wanting everybody to see it, but then being tragically, upset when things don't work out. And then the son being there himself. It's kind of a fitting quote. But that concept in and of itself is interesting to think about, how humans could someday evolve via mutation to become something that is not able to mutate as we're living to respond to the environment, rather than, have evolution through natural selection. We're actually mutating in real time to match the environment. But not only that they would happen, but that then those mutations could be passed on to the children as like a birth given aspect. And all that's just super, mind-blowingly weird to think about. So with all that being said, that's the movie Crimes of the Future. I don't think it's for everybody. I enjoyed watching it. I watched it kind of late at night, so it was there. I'm sure I missed little aspects of it as I was trying to kind of stay awake to finish it. Not because it was a bad movie, but because it's like past 1 o'clock right now on a weeknight. But I would say, like I said, it's not for everybody, and there are aspects of this movie that are kind of drawn out, or there are characters that also maybe don't deliver their lines the greatest that they could have, looking at the cop character, and even the main character, Saul. But I do think that this movie has an interesting story, and it provides a lot of thought-provoking themes and plot points within the story, and just this futuristic timeline that this movie takes place in is extremely interesting to observe, and for that reason alone, I think it was a pretty good movie. So, given that, even though I personally like the movie a lot because of the fact of like how weird it is and stuff like that, I think I just have to give it a solid 3 to a light 4. I think if you're like me and you're interested in something super weird like this, I think it tips more into a 4 for you, because I would recommend my friends that are into stuff like this to see this. Like it's probably a necessity that they see it, whereas my parents or my girlfriend or many of the other people in my life that aren't as interested in weird stuff like this, I don't think I would be able to get them to finish the movie. So that is my take on it. I really enjoyed it. I'm feeling kind of weird having just watched that movie late at night, but I would definitely say it is a strong 3 to a light 4. That is David Cronenberg's Crime of the Future, and I think I'll be watching Infinity Pool sometime soon, so look forward to that review as well. Like, comment, subscribe. If you dislike, let me know why you dislike, and I'll be more than happy to respond to your feedback. But that being said, that's the review. I'll catch you guys on the next one.